The role of a woman in the life of the nation and the creation of the state is difficult to overestimate. The history of Ukraine knows many remarkable women who, through significant efforts, left us examples of successful work in this field.
The name of Shefika Gasprynska is closely related to the spread of ideas of emancipation, enlightenment, and women's rights in Crimea. The Gasprynski couple, Ismail and his wife Zuhra, lived in Bakhchisarai and published the newspaper Terjyman. Ismail was also an organizer of the Enlightenment movement, a writer, and a teacher. On October 14, 1886, their daughter Shefika was born into this highly educated family of Crimean Tatars. The Gasprynski couple, observing the oppressed situation of Tatar women, cherished hopes for enlightenment in their community. For this purpose, a newspaper or magazine specifically aimed at a female audience would be best suited. However, the authorities of the Russian Empire refused their requests many times until they finally obtained permission in 1905. The first issue of the first women's magazine in the Muslim world, Alimi Niswan, Women's World, was published on March 3, 1906. Its editor was 20-year-old Shefika. The magazine covered topics aimed at improving the social status of women, issues related to early marriages and family law, women's health, including motherhood, infant mortality, and child-rearing, and issues of customs and religion. Special emphasis was placed on the importance of education for girls and women.
The revolutionary events in the Russian Empire, February to March 1917, gave new incentive to the Crimean Tatar national and women's movements in Crimea. In April 1917, a women's rally was held in Bakhchisarai, at which the city's Women's Revolutionary Committee was elected, headed by Shefika Gasprynska. At rallies and in the press, she highlighted the reasons for discrimination against women, the lack of homeland rights and inaccurate interpretations of Islam. In August 1917, a regional women's congress was held in Crimea with 30 female delegates participating. The main report was delivered by Shefika, who spoke about the equality of rights for Tatar spouses, the abolition of excessive guardianship of a husband, father, or brother over a woman and a girl, and the possibility for women to shop, walk around the city, and visit the mosque independently. Ilhamiye Tokhtar was elected head of the Central Committee of Muslim Women of Crimea, with Shefika Gasprynska as her deputy and Zeynep Amirkhan as secretary. November 1917 was marked by unprecedented political activity in Crimea, and women were not left out. They combined the intensive assertion of their rights with the interests of national revival. In the elections of November 1917, women managed to send several of their representatives to the Kurultai of the Crimean Tatar people. Shefika Gasprynska was elected to the Presidium of the Kurultai. The apogee of the Crimean Tatars' rapid progress towards solving the women's issue was the inclusion in the constitution of the proclaimed Crimean People's Republic in December 1917 of a clause on the equality of men and women. The Kurultai elected a national government, the Directory. By the decision of the Directory, Shefika Gasprynska was appointed the director of the Women's Pedagogical School opened in Simferopol, Dar ul Mulyamin.
However, soon after, the Kurultai was dispersed by the Bolsheviks. In February 1918, one of its organizers, Noman Chelybychikhan, was killed. Shefika Gasprynska left Crimea and went to Azerbaijan, the homeland of her husband, the Prime Minister of Azerbaijan, Nasip Yusufbeli. There she headed a pedagogical school. However, in 1920, as a result of the Bolshevik coup, the national government in Azerbaijan was overthrown, and her husband was executed. Gasprynska, along with her children, was forced to immigrate to Turkey, where she took an active part in social life of refugees, worked in the Red Crescent Society, and in 1930 founded and headed the Union of Crimean Tatar Women in Istanbul. She also worked as a director of an orphanage. Shefika Gasprynska lived a long life, most of which was spent far from her native Crimea. She died in Turkey at the age of 89.
Olena Stepaniv was a phenomenal, bright personality, the first woman in the world to be officially enlisted in military service as an officer. Among her military ranks were standard bearer of the Ukrainian Sich Riflemen and corporal of the Ukrainian Alyushina army. Olena Stepaniv was also a Ukrainian historian, geographer, and the mother of historian Yaroslav Dashkevich. Olena Stepaniv was born on December 7, 1892, in the Peremyshal region, which was then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Her father, Ivan Stepaniv, was a Greek Catholic priest and an active member of the Enlightenment Society. Olena studied at the Lviv Seminary of the Ukrainian Pedagogical Society. It was here that she became acquainted with the world of underground Ukrainian circles and the Plast Scout movement. In her first year at Lviv University, she, along with Konstantina Malitska, published the brochure Women in Ancient Ukraine. At the same time, Olena also developed an interest in military affairs.
In 1914, Olena decided that her place was in the rifle ranks. She took her first oath and began attending lectures on military history, training in medical aid, and participating in military exercises. Subsequently, the Women's Rifle Division of Nurses went to the front with the riflemen, where the senior officer was second standard bearer Olena Stepaniv. Rifleman Ostap Lutsky recalled, "Can you imagine what it means for a loaded infantry soldier to walk 30-40 kilometers day after day, night after night, to dig trenches, advance and retreat, freeze on the field, starve, and bear responsibility for every step of the people entrusted to you?" This woman distinguished herself in the war with responsible service and perseverance. She became a corporal of a detachment that carried out assignments during the Carpathian military operation. The Battle of Komarniki brought Olena her first military glory, a medal for bravery, and her first officer rank. Our heroine especially proved herself in the battles for Makivka, a mountain that was a strategic high ground. The battle for it and the victory of the Austrian troops disrupted the offensive plans of the Russian command and forced it to retreat. At that time, units of the Ukrainian Sich Riflemen distinguished themselves with unheard-of courage. Among them was Olena Stepaniv, who, for her skillful actions, received the officer rank of standard bearer.
The battle near Bolekhiv turned into real hell. Olena Stepaniv was captured. Newspaper headlines behind the front lines announced, "The captured woman officer shared the fate of the captured Austrians. By birth, a Halichina woman, by conviction, a Mazepa woman." She spent the next 2 years in POW camps in Tashkent. During the exchange of prisoners in April 1917, Olena Stepaniv left Central Asia through Petrograd, Finland, Sweden, and Germany to rejoin her rifleman's unit, which was then stationed near Stryi. Olena became one of the organizers of the November Uprising, which resulted in the emergence of the Western Ukrainian People's Republic. She worked as a press officer at the State Secretariat of Foreign Affairs, the WUPR, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the UPR in Kamyanets-Podilsky. On behalf of the Ukrainian Halichina leadership, she conducted secret negotiations in Kyiv with Hetman Pavlo Skoropadsky regarding the unification of the state.
In 1919, Olena arrived in Vienna with the diplomatic delegation, where she stayed for some time after the defeat of the Ukrainian Revolution. She received a degree of Doctor of Philosophy in history and got married. A few years later, she returned to Lviv, where she worked at the specialized school of the Basilian Sisters and taught history and geography at the clandestine university. At that time, Poland, which included the western territories of Ukraine, required mandatory service in the army to become a student. Not all Ukrainians wanted to serve in the Polish army, leading to the creation of a clandestine university where Olena Stepaniv lectured. She was also an active member of the Taras Shevchenko Scientific Society and the Native School Society. In the 1930s, Olena withdrew from political life, concentrating on scientific and teaching activities.
During the Second World War, Olena's husband ended up in Vienna while she stayed with her son in Lviv. After the war, she worked as a senior researcher and head of the economic sector of the Lviv Department of the Institute of Economics, of the Academy of Sciences of the Ukrainian SSR, and as a scientific employee of the Natural Museum of the Academy of Sciences of the Ukrainian SSR, 1948 to 1949. In 1949, she was accused of propagating nationalist ideas and sentenced to 10 years in labor camps. Her property was confiscated, including family memorabilia, documents, her apartment, with the grand piano and furniture removed, and silverware looted. Her son, Yaroslav Dashkevich, a future prominent historian, received a similar sentence of 10 years in correctional labor camps. Exiled to Mordovia, she suffered from dystrophy and was classified as disabled. After her return, Olena Stepaniv Dashkevich lived for another 4 years in a rented apartment, supported by friends and relatives. She died and was buried in Lviv. Once, 23-year-old Olena said in an interview, "You call me a heroine, and that embarrasses me. I haven't done anything heroic yet. I am only fulfilling my duty. With love for Ukraine, I took the cross and went into the field to beat the enemy with physical force. That's all." Such was the life of a great patriot, a scientist, the author of more than 70 scientific works, a public figure, a woman who is an example of sacrifice and striving for a goal, a sense of duty and courage, devotion to work, and love for her country. We have no right to forget our heroines and heroes if we want to live in our independent state and use the experience of generations to confidently shape the horizons of Ukraine in the future.